Welcome everyone to Boom Mic Banter. This is episode 10, and for my 10th episode, I'm so fucking ecstatic. I've been wanting to have this guest on, honestly, since I've been formulating this thing, even when I was talking about the pseudo blueprints of this podcast. This was honestly the first person, I swear to God, Wildon, this is the first person that I was thinking about doing a one. I'm going to try to not, I apologize to listeners, I swear I'm going to try to not do an interview setup, but there is a ton of things I want to ask you, so. So of course, above all else, my guest here today is Wildon. Wildon, how the fuck are you doing?
I'm really humbled and honored right now. Jeez, thank you.
And of course, your lady is here as well, Heather. Heather, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good. So Wildon, normally, I get into a rando conversation and try to jump in some point, and we definitely are, of course, going to do that because it's both of us, and that's just usually how we roll. But I've been having a personal crisis lately. I've literally been freaking out about my job. I've been super iffy about my job, and you're one person that I've always seen is in a at least at the moment, is in a very good job spot. I would say, right? Yeah. So what? Because I always see the job title and stuff and everything that you're doing. So what is it specifically that you do?
Okay, so right now I hold 2 job titles. So I'm a coach and personal trainer over at iTrain Studio.
Okay.
I've been doing that for over 2 years now. Oh wow, it's been a while.
Yeah.
And I also do stretch therapy, which is really new. I just started doing that over at Restore Cryotherapy.
Yeah, I was about to say, I obviously we're friends on Facebook and such, and I saw that come up at some point, and then I was yeah. So that's why I even want to ask, because I didn't want to assume titles, because I'm assuming that stuff fluctuates and stuff. So how did that all come about? Because when we first met, you weren't anywhere on a fit, you didn't have any previous history in fitness. That's what totally threw me off.
No. So actually, that's actually kind of funny, and I think a lot of my friends know this story. But bottom line, I've known Wayne, who is my trainer. I've known him since he got over here from Zimbabwe. I've known him growing up. I watched his progress, everything like that.
Yeah.
Actually, for a little bit before I moved to DC in about 2007, he trained me for a little bit because I came to him and I said, "Hey, I'm trying to get back in fighting shape."
Yeah.
And then at first he was training me out of his American parents' backyard.
So okay.
It was some craziness. Wasn't able to walk the first time in after the next day afterwards. But it was a great session, and it reminded me kind of how much further I need to go. But then I moved, went to DC for a couple years. I would say freshman 20, but it was more freshman 50. I gained a decent bit of weight, and I just kind of went through these cycles where I would try and train on my own, and then I would hurt myself.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how bad my form was, but I would go through these cycles where I'd do really well for a month, hurt myself, and then 2 months out, and then just go back to doing what I was doing. Then a month, hurt myself, 2 months out, 1 step forward, literally 2 steps backward.
No, I totally get that.
Then I moved back from DC, and I got the job at GameStop, which a lot of good things came out of that.
Yeah.
And all that.
Yeah.
But I was on my way to get empanadas over at ABG. He was working over at Macmillan at the time. Went for a visit, and I was like, "Oh, yo, good to see you." We got caught up,
Yeah.
And he's like, "Come in for a free session on Saturday." I was like, "Yeah, sure. I'm still trying to get in shape. We'll see what's going on." Got murdered. I was laid out on the ground, and it was one of the most humbling experiences ever, because it's one of those things where you're like, "Oh, I'm in shape. I got this." No.
Oh,
no.
Yeah.
But I kept at it. Stayed on for several years. I was training with him for over about 4 years.
Jeez.
Yeah, and
oh my gosh.
I got really into it. I started actually making my GameStop schedule around my training schedule.
Well, that's what I was about to say. When I started seeing, sadly we were never in the same store, which is such a bummer. But when I saw you less and less at your store, I noticed there was definitely a convergence, which was a good thing though.
No, let me see. I think the way, if you remember, you either opened or closed. So on my opening days, I just wouldn't take a break. I would leave half an hour early, dip out, go train, and then that was that. Or on my opening days, go in the morning, finish up work, done and done. And then about, oh God, actually, you know what? This is 3 years. Jeez.
Time flies, my man.
Yeah, time really does fly. No, 2 years. Okay, so 2017, things are changing a lot at GameStop around then. At my store. Yeah, things were like people started leaving that I came on with.
Yep.
Managers started getting switched out.
You lost a lot of your crew, and for a lot of like, and I guarantee you'll agree with me on this. For like people that don't know, at least for us at GameStop, and especially when you were still over there, which was like quite a few years ago, there was definitely a family. Like first of all, like especially usually your own store, and then on top of it, if you were like even like us, like we met up like post stores and everything else like across multiple stores, and you really get like a really good bonding setup. I mean, retail in general is hard, and it's just one of those things where like if you're lucky enough to meet some pretty cool people, like you try to hold on to them.
Exactly. We have a really good crew and a good family of people that came out of all that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And it was. I probably wouldn't be where I am right now if I didn't meet all those people back then, and they made it okay for me to have both of those sides of myself,
Yeah.
Because I used to go out and I used to party a lot. I used to do a lot of that. And then, of course, I'm into anime, video games, the whole nine, like top to bottom, all the way since I was a kid. And then, when I started getting into fitness, everyone was like, oh, yo, keep going. You go ahead, man. I was like, oh, thank you guys. This is awesome. But no, it was really, really nice to have that. But things started getting switched around. Management started changing. Certain rules, and it just started not to feel the same. Yeah.
And a lot more red tape started to happen on. A ton more restrictions, which I feel like that's why a lot of us, when we first got into that job, that's exactly what we went in for. It was kind of like, hey, it was a job where we could go in and genuinely talk about nerd stuff and hopefully bond with a couple people about that stuff and just sell nerd things. Like that was the appeal. Like that's what a lot of people. It's so funny now because like I don't think I hear anybody say that now. But oh my gosh, like when we first got hired, that was like a dream job for some people. Right. Of like exactly. Like I mean, of course we were like teenagers and shit at the time, so of course our priorities were all fucked up. But like but at the same time, that was like oh my god, it was like if I could work at GameStop and like sell games, talk about that stuff, find out the insider stuff, like that was the fucking dream like back then. Of course, it's a lot different now, but
I don't think I knew back then how much organizing and like alphabetizing I'd be doing.
Oh yeah. Oh, my goodness. The grunt work is absolutely the worst work.
But I appreciate it now because it kept me organized and I was just kind of boom boom boom. But yeah, it was a good time like when I had my squad. But about 2 years ago, 2017, Wayne offered me. He was like, because he saw I was kind of struggling, and he was like, you just don't seem the same or happy right now in your job. If you want, come work for me. I'll get you certified as a trainer. I'll teach you everything along the way, and we'll just kind of kick it every now and then. And he's my boy. We've been friends for a while, and honestly, an opportunity to learn more about the body and fitness and actually do that full time. I kind of, as soon as he asked me, put my 2 weeks in like 2 days later, and then ever since then it's been one wild ride. It's been probably one of the best decisions ever because I've learned so much. I've gotten a lot out of it. I've been able to help so many people. Been able to learn more so I could help myself.
What one question I did want to ask because I feel like you brought it up a little bit, but we kind of almost glanced over it.
What's up?
What got you into fitness? Like I mean, like it could even be like when you were like a kid. Like was there like one instant moment where like you first started doing it and then it just totally clicked, or was it like a thing? Like because for me, for example, like for me it always is like an on again off again thing. Just for me, like I always can really get into it and like I can dive in for like 8 months. Like 8 months I can do it like pretty consistently and like really figure stuff out. And then mentally I'm like, I should take a little bit of a break. And then it ends up being a bigger break than I want. And then I gotta like break off like the dust and then like get back into it again. Like that's always for me. But yeah, for you it's always seemed, at least even since like I've met you and like really got to know you at least, like that's always been a consistent thing.
It really wasn't at first because let me see. When I moved back to the States when I was 9, we didn't really have, like, my parents were just trying to get us acclimated to how things were, because we moved from St. Vincent and the Grenadines to London, Kentucky. And one of the ways that they socialize us is, well, first, they got a membership to this gym, and they did Shaolin classes there.
Oh, okay.
And me and my sister took it, and then we got really, really into it. We made it all the way, like, I think that carried us all the way throughout most of the time we were in Kentucky, and we made it to black belt. By the time I left, we were teaching. It was a good time, but when we came up here, we didn't really continue training or anything like that. It's always been something I wanted to do, but it was never something that I really, really went and followed up with. And then when I met, like, when I first met Wayne, he came over cross country, so he was like stick skinny. But then we lost touch, and then a couple years later, dude's jacked, like jacked. I was like, what happened? He's like, oh yeah, I discovered how to lift. And then I found out that he was also doing MMA training. I was like, oh yeah, I used to do martial arts. Helped me get back into shape. And that was kind of what sparked it. And then after having that little bit of just with the on and off, and then coming back and being able to find something that kept me consistent, it was, pretty nice. But that being said, was a lot of frustration getting started.
I was about to say, I could imagine. That's gotta be rough.
Especially when you go in thinking you're a lot better than you really are.
Yeah.
You get humbled so immediately and so consistently. There were a lot of points of frustration, especially like when, a couple months would go in and, I do really well, start dropping a little bit of weight, and then I plateau. And then I'm like, what's going on? Why is this taking so long? And I always had to be reminded, how long did it take you to get this? How long did it take you to gain that weight? All that sort of stuff. And then he said, give yourself the amount of time that it took you to gain it to take it off. And he was right. It took about 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. Makes sense.
But it was just little things like that made it a little difficult. But then there was that, and then I had a really good community around me. Like, when I went, let me see, one experience that stands out to me, because I was really extremely deconditioned. I was on a rowing machine, just plugging away, trying to do 500 meters. Okay. And I was dying. I wanted to just fall over. And
it's actually so funny you bring that up. One of the first things that, because same thing, I think it was, oh God, I'm trying to remember now. I think I was 17 when I tried to go to a personal trainer my first time, just because I've always been like relatively skinny. I've never had like a real like weight issue. But my whole thing, I was just like, even out the gate, I was never like, oh, I'm definitely confident where I'm at. I was like, no, I'm completely out of shape. Like, I'm skinny, but that doesn't mean I'm strong, or that it also doesn't mean I'm healthy. And so I tried to get with a personal trainer, and the first thing they said, they were like, well, because I would run, I did like track and stuff, and they were like, oh, so like you have good leg strength, but how about your upper body? And mentally I was like, okay, if I can run pretty well and I can do a couple sit-ups and push-ups, like I should be okay. And then the first thing he did was put me on a rowing machine and just just destroyed me. Yeah. So anyway, continue.
No, I was the same way. I was 500 meters at that point felt like more like 1500, and I was struggling. The person that was next to me saw that I was struggling, and I'll never forget this, but she just kept staying. She stayed on way past when she was done to help encourage me to keep going. And then she was cheering me on. She got a couple other people to help with me, and they just were like, you got this, keep it going. Yeah. And I was really about to give up. I was just about to be like, nah, I'm done. And just that little bit of encouragement, that little small hint of community, that kept me going. Yeah. And if you have a good crew around you, it doesn't matter, what kind of backgrounds you come from. If you guys support each other or are going through it with each other, it makes a huge difference. It makes a very, very huge difference. And that was a turning point for me. That was like, all right, if there's some people around me that keep encouraging me and keep pushing me forward, even when I'm over there dying really pathetically, then you know what, I can do this. And it got progressively more difficult, but kept really enjoying it.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that. Well, I mean, I feel like I mean, yet again, of course, you have a million times more expertise than I do about it, but that's always what it seems like. I feel like you have to keep presenting yourself with more difficult challenges, and that's the thing. As long as you stay motivated, and also have a group to support you with it, it's constantly being able to break through those walls. And it's almost, I mean, like a related, unrelated note. It's just like you said, like the time frame of, even if you get hit with one of those walls that seems like a totally new obstacle that you haven't ever hit before. It's like, look at yourself even a year ago of what you were or weren't able to do, and look at what you're even trying to attempt to do now where, even a couple of years ago, you might never even thought you'd be in that realm.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And that's one other thing that you have to learn. Only if you work to compete against yourself, that's going to get you further than trying to work harder than the next person.
Yeah.
Because if you're constantly being just a little bit, it doesn't have to be like, you don't have to do, 10 pounds more or, like 1,500 reps on something or anything like that. If you can do just one little thing differently, improve it. Even if it's just, like I adjusted this way and this felt a lot better. My form felt a lot better in this regard. I did the same amount of reps, but it felt a lot smoother.
Yeah.
Little improvements over time make a huge difference.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and on top of, I mean, like, yeah, as long as I feel like the consistency's there, then absolutely. Then yeah, any little improvement helps. And that's what's funny too. Like that's one thing that I find so intriguing about like just fitness in general is I feel like that's like one path you can go down that I feel that like I'm always just so like mind struck by, because I feel like you can incorporate it into so many other things. Just once you get that mentality down of like keeping your fitness up, I feel like it's so much easier to just like tackle life.
I quite honestly, I can't really deny that on it. When I started being a little bit more active, it started to help get my mind right.
Yeah.
So I started to be I was a little bit more productive at work. I started being able to think a little bit clearer. If I train consistently, if I'm doing 3-4 times a week, then I'm fine. I'm good. But it also gets to a point, once you get in the habit of doing it, say you maintain a schedule for, a couple months, and you start getting used to it, you get into your habits, you get into your patterns. If it messes up even a little bit, it might throw you off a little bit more than you thought.
Yeah.
So for me, for example, if I don't train, if I go like 3 days without training, my efficiency goes down a little bit.
You can like actually feel it.
Yeah. My mood goes down. I can feel myself getting a little antsy. I can feel like I just a little bit more foggy. It's a strange feeling. I didn't think I would ever be this way, first of all. Especially a lot of the things that I do now on the regular, these are things I despised. Like, especially running. No, that took years.
Well, I was going to bring that up too. You're doing like running events now, right?
Oh yeah, those are fun.
So yeah. So go into those a little bit, because I see you post those on like Facebook and like Snapchat and stuff like all the time. So how did you? Because those, I mean, like those that's a whole different type of thing that I'm assuming you have to train for, right? Yeah. So how does that? How does that even go?
I started doing that out of necessity, because I think when I started learning how to run, because first of all, Wayne kept making me run a lot, and then the day I realized I had to learn to get used to it was the day, like, there used to be, if you go to like ABG, like the block, like the bar is, there's a nice block that goes around the bar.
Okay.
That leads right back to it's just one nice big circle.
Got it.
So I would do
the
that.
entrance and exit.
Yeah. So I would do that block, and then I'd come back and like, all right, here's a sandbag. Take it around the block. And it was an excruciating experience. So I figured, all right, I need to get good at running. And then my friend Liz, amazing human being, took me out to this path out in Mannheim called the Lancaster Junction Trail. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
I realized very quickly I don't like treadmills. I don't like feeling like a mouse in a wheel.
No, I totally agree with you there.
I needed good scenery, good music, and I learned how to run on that trail because it was flat. It's got trees enclosing it during the summer, so it's kind of cool, but it looks gorgeous.
Well, and that's the other thing too. I totally feel you there. Like okay, so a little backstory on me. So when I first started to learn how to run, because I was doing track, so the thing that they taught me out the gate, because I was more of a sprinter, so they taught me put all of your effort in, like, until you hit that finish line is literally 100%. And one of the hardest things that I had to learn, like when I got out of school even, and just to change like my mindset on it was like, oh, I should learn, like, just as a human being, I should just learn how to do long distance. Like, I should just, like, get that in my mindset. And same thing, I asked a lot of people to try to help me out with it. And the first way I learned, and it's what I used to do with sprinting, is I would always run on a track. That was always my thing. But I couldn't stick with it on a track. And then I even tried a treadmill and stuff, too. And I was the exact same way. Like, I needed to look at stuff to totally, like, get my mind to be able to wander better. Like, music and stuff, of course, helps. But I don't know, like, sometimes, like, I feel like at least for me, like, when I would hit those first big walls where, like, in my brain, I'm, like, screaming, like, there's no way you can take another step. For some reason, like, if I was out and about, I could just look at something and then be like, I want to, or if anything, like, this might even sound silly, but, like, I would just look at a tree, like, upcoming on the path, and I'm like, I could get there. Like, just constantly set myself at, like, further checkpoints like that.
That's a good strategy, actually.
Yeah.
Because I used to do that, too. But it would just be like, all right, you just need to get to that tree. All right, cool, we got here. Let's pick another spot.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Can you still breathe? Are you still okay? Your legs aren't breaking, even though you feel like you're in a collapse? Like, just keep going a little bit more. Yeah.
So important. So important. But, yeah, no, that's good. That's really good. Because, again, it was out of necessity. And then after years, running is not something that you learn to love overnight.
Of course.
It may take months. It may take years. It took years, and there were a lot of rough days. But one day I was out on that path, and it just kind of clicked. I got in a rhythm. I started doing a lot of different types of running and training, like from minimalist shoes to sprints to just kind of going for as long as I can, trying to mix it up, trying to figure out where my stride was. Once I dialed in on everything nicely and it felt kind of natural and I wasn't in any pain, I just kind of zoned out and found myself in a good stride. And then a minute, like, that was the first time I actually hit that runner's high. I ran the entire path, and about 15 minutes afterwards, just like with any one of my workouts, I was like, oh, geez, I feel really good. I got that done.
Yeah.
But again, this is 3 years later.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. That's what's so crazy. I mean, you can probably correlate to a lot of stuff, but yeah, running always for me, like, blows my mind of just, like, how much time it takes. And you can tell, like, some people who have done it and some people that can't, or at least just haven't even, like, tried to, because I shouldn't say no one's able to, but it definitely takes, like, and just my opinion on it definitely, like, you have to be in that mindset. It's one of those things where for me, it's almost as much of a mental game as it is a physical one.
Agreed.
And you almost have to take the same amount of time to work on both, because there's so many times where, at least, like, I would be doing that stuff where either one or the other either wasn't in sync, or the other one's, like, fighting against me, whether it's, like, my body telling me I gotta give up or my brain telling me, like, you're gonna explode if you keep running, like, you gotta stop. So yeah, I mean, like, and after a while I got really consistent with it too. But yeah, I mean, you're doing long runs, which is, like, amazing.
Well, yeah, longer than what I used to do. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
But I started running with people a lot stronger than me. Like, that was one of the game changers right there that helped me develop a lot faster. But at the same time, this is years down the road.
Yeah.
Lots of consistency.
Well, I feel like too, that's a really great way. I mean, like, not fitness wise, but, like, I just usually try to do that in general, of, like, just always try to surround yourself with a good setup of people that are going to keep trying to motivate you.
Yeah,
That's a huge thing for me.
It's a major game changer, and at the same time, yeah, there are certain things you're gonna have to learn how to self motivate at some point. But at the same time,
absolutely.
But at the same time, when you want to test yourself and you want to get to the next level, like I usually go to someone that's already been there, and get humbled, and I take something away from it.
Yeah, definitely.
And so it's still something I'm figuring out, but I do enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, kind of same thing. I feel like that's always something you can always learn something from it.
Mm-hmm.
But same thing when you look at yourself even a couple of years ago of where you're at now, it's got to be like totally fucking different, you know?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's a big deal. But yeah, so that's God, man. That's always just something like. Oh, I'm so glad we could actually like sit down and like shoot the shit about it for a little bit, because I know I've always briefly brought it up with you a little bit, but I'm so glad, and we were talking about this before recording, but like it's exactly why I'm so glad I can do like a podcasting thing, because I just feel like in our mid-20s we always keep talking about that we should always catch up, but it's always actually so rare to really get like one-on-one time with people now.
That is so true.
You know what I mean? Like I just and it's not an issue. Like it's not like, I mean, between the two of us, we usually meet at a mutual friend's house. We always meet at Brian's house. Brian's been on the podcast before. And it's always great. But I always feel bad. It's always, I feel like we always get like, and I feel like that happens with everybody. We'll get like 15 to 20 minutes of like a really quick, like, awesome, still breathing, cool, you're a person, great. And then like, shit, like I really wanted to fucking ask him about like said thing and shit. So
no, I definitely get that, because I'm moving a lot.
Yeah.
Normally when I catch you, I'm there for a couple minutes and then I gotta be out the door.
Well, and that's the other thing. Yeah, I was about to say, even I think last time we met up, you literally just got done. You just got done with something.
Let me see.
It was Monday. I can't remember what you were doing, because your plans got canceled. But then I think you ended up doing something, and then you stopped by.
This Monday or last Monday?
This Monday. Because originally we were gonna record.
Oh yeah,
And then we met up at Brian's, and then you were doing something. I can't remember.
Yeah,
what.
I was actually about to go to New York.
Yeah.
It was Saturday. I was going to go to New York because my aunt graduated. I was gonna hit that party, but it's just a 6-hour turnaround.
Oof, yeah.
That would have been rough.
Were you gonna do that in one day or split it up?
I was just gonna do it I was actually gonna leave work at 5, go to New York, and then come back that night. But by the time I got out, the fam was just kind of like, hey.
It's cool.
We just got here. We're still looking for park. It's like 4 hours later.
It's a disaster, dude.
Yeah,
yep.
just next time.
No, I've been there. No, I mean, yeah, same thing. I mean, usually when I'll even go up, because I still have a lot of family in Jersey.
Nice.
So yeah, I'll usually hit up Jersey. But same thing, if I'm doing a day trip, it's usually like 2.5 hours there, 2.5 hours back at least minimum.
Where in Jersey are you from?
That's okay. Yeah, I'm so glad we're talking about this, because actually that was a whole nother thing I was gonna bring up. So I'm from Islin.
Mm-hmm.
And where are you at? Where were you at?
I was born in Jersey City.
Jersey City. No shit.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Christ Hospital in Jersey City.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say, for me, Islam was pretty rural. It was like, it was a ways out. I mean, it's so funny, because like everybody from, I feel like it's this thing of everyone from Jersey can know a spot and they go, great. But like if anybody outside of Jersey is trying to figure out where that is, you always have to correlate it with how far away it was from Trenton. It's so messed up, but like I feel like anyone who's been in Jersey, I feel like that's the last thing you would try to compare it to, because that's so. I feel like that's always so left field from what from people that have lived in Jersey. I feel like that's such a different. Trenton is such a different vibe than I feel like most other like spots.
And I didn't actually get to spend a lot of time in those spots, but I know there's like I have a friend, she's from Jersey. She's always she was the one that told me, oh yeah, you'll know the difference between North Jersey and South Jersey.
Oh yep.
And I was like, wait, really? It's like that? Because I was only there until I was 5. I went straight from Jersey City to the Caribbean, so I didn't really get any of that acclimation there.
Well, I was just gonna say, so yeah, just even like briefly, you were talking about this, and I semi know your history with this, but you've moved around like a million times.
A decent bit, actually.
Because I was about to say, like, my background, like, I lived in Jersey up until I was 8, and then it was so funny. It was always for my dad's promotions. That's like literally why we moved every time. So it was my dad got this like amazing job in PA, and then that's why I was in PA. I was in PA for like 4 years, and then bam, dad got another awesome job. So we moved down to Florida. So we were in Florida for 2 years, and then a bunch of shit happened. he ended up passing away, so then we moved back to PA. And then, yeah, and then now I've been in PA ever since. But you've been like everywhere.
How's Florida, by the way?
Okay, so here's my issue with Florida. So Florida as a whole was pretty great. We were right around like Fort Lauderdale and stuff. So overall, I mean, the weather was pretty nice. The only real bad cons were the terrible like hurricanes and tornadoes, where we were literally had to drill in metal plates into our fucking windows so they didn't shatter. And a couple times we went like 1 to 2 weeks without power. So that was pretty cool. But other than that, it wasn't bad. But my own personal setup with it, it's such a shit show, because I would honestly love to go back there and really kind of absorb it, because the whole problem was when my dad literally got his promotion, he moved up. So we were in like a whole, classic like suburban family setup, so we all just had like the house and yard and everything. So he moved up, I think it was like a couple weeks before we actually took the house and everything, and and moved everything out with like me, my mom, my brother. But my dad, like right when we moved, had like fucking immense. He moved, was there for like 2 days, and had like the worst pain of his life. Thought he was like having a heart attack. Anyway, they ended up figuring out a bunch of stuff, found out it was cancer. And yeah, exactly. And so got hit with that, got hit with lymphoma, and then battled that for 2 years straight. So with that, that's kind of the mixed bag that I always have with it, of like, I was there, and yeah, the fucking scene, it was totally fine. I know some people always say Florida's a cesspool, and like, I understand. It's kind of the same thing of what I was talking about with Jersey. There's good spots and there's bad spots. And if you know what the fuck you're doing and know where to avoid, like as long as you avoid the tourist attractions, you're totally fine. You can find rural spots that are nice. And I was pretty lucky of where we were at. We weren't in like a super convoluted spot. But I was literally like with my dad at that whole time, who was like bedridden. So it's a weird bag, but the state itself totally fine. But
I get what you're doing.
Yeah, me and my mom always have a personal joke of like fuck Florida, because like for us personally, it was just a bunch of shit. Yeah. But like I said, I even try to still keep a positive outlook on it, in the sense of like I would still love to go back, and especially now, like so many fucking years later, and actually really get some clarity on it. But going back, yeah, Jesus Christ, you've been like every spot in between. So run me through it. So yeah, so you were born in Jersey, right?
Jersey City until I was 5. We my dad was finishing up his residency, my mom was finishing up her accounting degree, and then we moved from there to St. Vincent because they wanted us to experience their country, and plus dual citizenship. So
yeah, but that's also awesome. Yeah. That's actually like I feel like you maybe don't hear, like I never really hear about that as much, but I feel like that's got to be like super important.
Since I'm a U.S. citizen, I'm like, that was never really an issue. But when we went back, we had to live there for a certain amount of time in order to get dual citizenship. But it was, quite honestly, I would not trade that experience away for anything, because it's part of, what it connects me to that culture. Because believe it or not, before I came over here, I had a very, very thick Caribbean accent. Seriously, a very thick Caribbean accent. I was there until I was 9. I was there for 4 years.
Yeah, so it's like prime growing up years.
Yeah,
like,
it was
huge.
Good experience all around. But I had a lot of, like, even though there was no snow and it was hot all the time, we had the Caribbean breeze. It was great. A lot of your experiences in Florida are what we had. And so we traded away the snow for rainy season.
Yes.
And for hurricane season. And for, instead of we'd have rain days. Like some days we wouldn't be able to go to school because like some of the classrooms got like flooded.
Oh my gosh.
Or
holy shit.
Like we had to put up pretty much, well, we didn't have to drill holes or anything like that, but we had shutters to
particular ones that like help barricade it. Yeah, I feel you.
It was interesting. I had a lot of fun, but my parents were always concerned, and anytime rainy season would come on, they would always play these ads of how bad it used to get or how bad it was, where streets were flooded, cars were floating away. Just remember, it's hurricane season. And I'm like, oh god. But I was there for 4 years, so I went straight from that to London, Kentucky, which is about 15 minutes away from Corbin, Kentucky, which is where the original KFC was.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. So why So, because obviously you were in Jersey first, and then you moved out there.
Mm-hmm.
So why back to Kentucky in particular? Was there any reason?
They wanted us to get a good education because we're American citizens. So
Okay.
they wanted us to get acclimated to American culture as well. So
Yeah.
and my dad got a job out in Kentucky. It was the most random spot ever, but at the same time,
Hey, yeah.
got us here. So.
I mean, I've never been in Kentucky by any stretch, but I feel like that's normally how most people end up in Kentucky. It's just kind of like a coin flip of something, and then it just ends up being there.
Wasn't a bad experience. It was just there was nothing there. Like I have some friends I still talk to every now and then from there, but there was like Walmart.
Yeah.
And I think I remember Finley's. It was a roller rink.
There's like a handful. It's literally like a handful of things.
Yeah, but it was very good people, good experiences. The one thing that stuck out though is that in order to go to the mall, we had to drive an hour and a half away to Lexington.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, and that was a day trip.
It was the event. It was. Yep.
Yeah, it was a day trip, but we were there for 5 years, and then my accent kind of got somewhere in between like the southern drawl and then the Caribbean accent and just kind of normalized.
Wow, I never even thought about that, but that actually totally makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I lost it completely, and then when I got up, I moved up to Lancaster when I was 14, my freshman year in high school, to Manham Township. Went there for 4 years, which culture shock. Had to learn a lot. Had to relearn how to socialize with everybody. That was very different.
Well, I was gonna say too. Yeah, for where you're at in Kentucky, how big did you have? Like, was it like your 5 friends that like that was it, or was it more like were you more sociable then, or was it way more?
Oh no, I was
like,
cool
inclusive?
with everybody there, but it was a very small school. Like me and my sister were the only black kids in middle school and high school combined.
Yeah, that sounds about right for Kentucky.
Yeah, but I mean, when we moved up here, they say Township didn't have a lot of black people. There were a handful of us. We were like, yeah, it's just me and Zoe, yes.
I was about to say for Warwick too. That's where it was. Yeah, it was always the percent was rising a little bit more each year. I was like, all right, they're getting it. They're getting it.
Yeah, but I mean, let me see. It was interesting.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I could imagine, especially for Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania's because you were when you got here at like 14. Yeah, I could definitely understand that because I was. I mean, of course, I was probably a little bit younger, but it's definitely it's a weird setup. I mean, I was here a little bit earlier, but I mean, even from New Jersey, just even the way because what's so funny is I had almost the opposite problem of like in Jersey. Everybody socialized. It was like the whole thing was when you walked down the street, you said hello to whoever it was. That was it. And then if you ended up even talking, great. But if not, whatever, it was cool. But you were like a jerk off if you didn't say hello to another person. Like if you just walk past without giving them any time of day, that was like an insult, like even from a stranger. And it was so funny because in PA, and I mean I was young when I first moved here. I was like 8. I was like 8 or 9, and I'm just walking down the street with like my friends. I'm like, hi, and then like no one's saying hello, and I was like, what the fuck? It's just like, what the hell is going on with everybody? I was like, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. And I had to learn the more like passive socialite stuff.
Oh my goodness, that took some adjustment. And it was. A lot of it was it was really hard to truly get to know people if you didn't go to elementary school with them, if you didn't come up through the ranks with them. It was a little bit harder.
I totally agree.
But at the same time, and no one talks to each other around here. Like I have neighbors that I haven't said anything to in years.
100%, absolutely. I totally agree with you.
I mean, I guess that's just the way it is, but it's just weird to me. Nobody says anything to each other.
It's crazy. I'm the exact same way of like when like I'm in an apartment complex, so I know it's a little bit different, but same thing. Like it's so funny because I have this tenant who lives like right below me, and we talk and we catch up, and it's so funny because like I think it was like the first day I moved in, she was like, oh, like moving in, like how's that going, like where are you from and all this stuff, and I literally just asked her, like, just to be funny, I was like, where are you from? And she was like, oh, I'm from New York. And I was like, yep, makes sense. It's like just already with just being that friendly, like I totally get it. Like, and it's a weird. It's funny because I just feel like if you're overly friendly in the area and you're not from around here, or I'm sorry, if you are from around here, it's then like a totally weird. Then it's more of a weird vibe. Yeah. It's almost the counterpoint. If someone's like born and raised in PA and then they start asking me questions, I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, what? Yeah. Where's the sale? What are you gonna hit me with?
I know exactly
what book am I getting handed? And
no, the one neighbor,
where can I get taken to? What's happening?
One neighbor I talk to on a regular basis when I see her she's from Philly. And she's amazing.
See, Philly's a city, and that's where it breaks the mold a little bit too. Like that's where you can still be born and raised in PA, but you get a totally different upbringing than like a lot of the rural spots in like PA.
True. I'm still trying to get used to Philly. I've been going there a lot, and I'm still trying to figure out how to feel about it. It's like,
wait, what are you mixed about? From someone who has driven to Philly a ton. My ex did all of her schooling in Philly, so trust me, I was used to the commute to Philly like every other weekend.
Yeah, at least once a week. At least once a week I'm up there. And it's a cool city. It's a cool city. I still don't know what to make of it yet. I know it's just like some days it's like really cool, other days I'm just really confused.
Yeah. But that sounds like Philly though.
Yeah.
Philly I feel like is a bipolar city. Like you can really walk in sometimes and you can really appreciate like the culture of Philly can be so great. But also, you could completely hate it. Like, you can also get destroyed by it.
I will say it's gone through some phases, because initially when I started going, is the one thing I noticed more than ever is I can go there at the middle of the day.
Yep.
I've gone to Philly, and I've gotten there at 2 a.m, and there's somebody out running.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah.
All the time.
Oh, yeah.
All the time.
Well, people are just even out and about. Yeah. Like, there is no time limit of Philly. Like, there's always something going on. Always. Like, I was more right in, at least where I was always visiting, I was more right around Temple. Oh. So literally, yep, okay. So literally for me, it was same thing. There was always somebody like doing something. There was always an activity going on. There was always some type of like event happening. And then the other thing was you could always find 15 people orbiting from just trying to get to the next like party. Like that's always what I kept finding out. Yeah. Of it was always, and I'm talking like way off campus too. Like I know I was around like Temple setup, but even like way off campus, it was just even like just walking around, just trying to explore the city. Because like what I would do when I was visiting her a lot, I would try to get there a little bit early, so I'd hit up at like 4:00, but she wouldn't get done with class till about 6. So it's kind of that like, okay, cool, I'll just like walk around, enjoy the city for a little bit. And yeah, that's like it was always that weird mix of there's always something going on.
It's so walkable though.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, I love that.
Yes, absolutely. There's always something interesting. Like literally, I would just always keep trying to wander of like, I went literally down like 15 roads that way this time. Why don't I take a left this time and like see where that goes? Yeah, I've been the same. It's always an interesting city to like explore and stuff. But then at the same time, it all depends. Like it's great because you can like meet up with some fucking awesome people and have a bomb ass time. But yet again, it's that coin flip where all it takes is like 2 assholes and it could just ruin your whole fucking night. I mean, what I used to joke about Philly was because a bunch of my buddies would be like, what, like, how is the trip always, like, how do you always, like, keep doing the trip? And the always funny thing I would laugh about is there's always a story I would have coming back from Philly. Whether it was good, bad, whatever the fuck was going on, there was always a fucking story I had to tell, literally just from driving there and literally hanging out for the weekend. There was always a fucking story I could take out of it.
I always get a story, like, it's always when I'm not there. When I'm not there, I always get a call like, hey, babe, so I was literally just walking down the street and this guy in a school bus followed me for 2 blocks and was like, hey, can I get your number? And be like, no, I got a man. Oh, no, I got a couple kids and baby moms. Can I still get that number?
Oh, my God. That's dedication.
I know, but
that's
it's like...
First of all, it's wrong, so Heather, I apologize. But
no, there was, like, kids in the back, too, like, elementary kids, and he had the door open.
No. That's been
just, like, drove by me. I was, like... running to the gym. Damn. And I was just like, okay,
that's phenomenal.
But it's like every other time I'd get a story like that and I'm just kind of like, you know what, I mean, these dudes are savage out here. Jeez.
Yeah, Heather, I tip my hat to you because first of all, living in the city first of all, very difficult, and you definitely have to be a certain type of person to survive it. Being a woman in the city, Jesus Christ, literally can't even fathom that type of approach.
It's not too bad. You have to have a little bit of a thick skin, but most of the people there are pretty cool.
There we go. See, and that's what I'm saying. See, I feel like it's just that coin flip of it's that back and forth. It can go one way or the other. All right, so there's one last thing that I did want to bring up, and it's kind of almost pseudo the reason of how we almost tried to plan this whole thing out.
Oh yeah, what's up?
So I posted this thing a little bit ago about this whole video on, essentially like older anime and like nostalgia.
Yes.
And there's always kind of like that vibe and like, and you can talk to most people that have been into anime. Let's even say before 2005. Let's just throw an arbitrary year out there to kind of get a base on it. And everybody has like a niche one and all that stuff. And you resonate, I feel like the same way I did, where it's like it's so true, and I feel like it's tough now when I'm talking to people about trying to get into like new anime. I feel like that's so difficult now to sift through everything. When we I feel like we never had, even a couple of years back, and now we're gonna make ourselves sound like we're 85. But like even a couple of years back, I feel like it wasn't even an issue. It was literally like just ask someone and then they'd be like, here's 5 big ones. Like if you don't watch these, what are you even doing? Now it's like, oh my god, have you heard of insert new anime? It's about this. Then you're like, oh my god, like I can't keep up with all the new age recommendations. Like what's happening?
It's so saturated now. Like
Yeah.
it's there, and it's not that there isn't a lot of good content, because there is.
Absolutely.
It's almost to the point there's too much.
Yes.
But at the same time, I'm coming off of a period. This is probably gonna tell my age a little bit, but for those that don't know, I'm 31. But when I started watching anime, I was in Kentucky, and they started showing it on Saturday mornings at 8 and 9 o'clock in the morning. And it was always like these really obscure titles, but the first one I ever watched was Vampire Hunter D.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Yeah, that was my very first anime.
Wow.
And
that's a creme de la creme too. That's a gem.
And I was here thinking, oh, it's just like, Saturday morning cartoons, and then all of a sudden limbs started coming off. And then this girl was trying to seduce him, and he's like, no, demon.
Yep.
And just all these things that you don't really see in normal cartoons.
Oh,
and
yeah, absolutely.
I was kind of enamored. I was like, this is really badass. And then, I kept on watching it. Then they went through like Iria, the Zerum Chronicles.
Yeah.
And then Captain Harlock. That's those sorts of anime.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
And, then what? Toonami came along around that a little during that time period.
Yep.
And then oddly enough, one of the first major ones was Sailor Moon.
Oh yeah.
I watched that with my sister.
Yes. Oh hell yeah, absolutely.
All those titles, like that's where I'm coming from. They had some really good classics back then. Like you got Tenchi Muyo, Rurouni Kenshin.
Absolutely.
Obviously DBZ.
Yes.
Still remember flipping out me and my sister were flipping out in the living room when Goku went Super Saiyan for the first time.
Oh my god.
Oh my god,
it was
he did it!
It was
Oh!
It's ridiculous.
But
it's so funny too because I asked, so you already answered it, so obviously don't even worry about it. But what's funny is too now when I ask people about anime, if it's someone that I haven't really shot the shit with, the first 2 questions I ask is, what is the first anime you've watched, and describe to me the first time you saw DBZ. Like those are the 2, because I feel like those are the 2 first like initial moments where it just blows your fucking mind. Like, oh my gosh.
No, I was mind blown the first episode, and it just kept getting better and better.
Yep.
But I hated having to wait months at a time
to
get that new season for them to rehash everything
the reruns,
over again.
The reruns
were so terrible.
The reruns were torturous.
Oh
man.
My goodness.
Nothing was worse. I at least for me, the most pivotal one that I remember. Actually, no, I'm sorry. It's 2 of them. But the one that physically was destroying me for a very long time was right before the official Cell games. We had the Cell Saga, and we had everything up to then, but literally right before the Cell games started, they kept looping that part, and I was like, I just got to see this fight, and then finally, you get like Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, you get jaw drop stuff, like everything's happening, which is like, debatably one of the most iconic DBZ setups. Oh, actually, one of the most iconic anime setups of all time. Flat out. Gohan's entire whole arc. And then the other one was right after that. It was then waiting for the Majin Buu whole thing just to even start, because it was literally like, and then it was that thing of, we just kept hearing stuff, and that's what kept driving me nuts, because it was right at that time, because like I think when I first was watching like DBZ, that was back when like you had to ask your parents to hop on IM. Like, you know what I mean? It was I am chat was like one of the funniest things. I was describing this to a buddy of mine a couple days ago. But one of the coolest. This is how old I'm gonna sound to some people. One of the coolest fucking things that I did in school that kids thought I was the fucking dopest man alive was I went on the computer and printed out a bunch of images. Now, this is during Cell Saga, but I found a bunch of images online, which now people are going to go, Nick, obviously we can find any image online. Back then, you had to fucking... So, like, Google was not a thing that no one knew. You had to know what web addresses you were looking up to find stuff.
Lycos.
Yeah. And so what I found like 2 leaked images of upcoming stuff. Like, it was like Gohan after the Great Saiyaman break when he goes Super Saiyan, but he's like only in like that black like leotard setup. And it was like that, and then like some other like it was like a picture of like Yakon, like the one like pseudo fucking bullshit villain out of the Majin Buu thing.
Yeah.
So I found like images of those and like 2 other old school images that I stole them from the fucking internet and copy and paste them onto a Microsoft Word page and printed them, and then had that as like my binder cover. And fucking all the kids at school were like, how the fuck did you find these? Like, what the fuck? And like, that was like one of the one of the echelon moments.
That is pretty dope, because I had to go through a lot. Like, I was right around the time during the Cell games, actually. I was really into looking up power levels.
Oh my god,
my
absolutely.
And they had a bunch of pages where they finally said, okay, this is what their power level was during this, after this, Super Saiyan 1, 2, Ultimate Super Saiyan.
Trying to put actual power, because of course we have the generic over 9,000, but then I think it was like over like Super Saiyan. Then at one point, it was after, I think it was like right before they jumped into season 4 when like Trunks like splits Frieza. I think then they officially said like, by the way, Super Saiyan is at like 1 million. And then everybody was like, holy what? Like, it was like, oh my god.
It was actually Frieza form, Frieza's third form, where his power level was stated as being over 1 million. Yeah. And then...
yeah, you're right, because that was even in one of the episode titles. I forgot about that.
Yeah. And then... he messed up some people in that episode.
Oh my god!
I think Piccolo got it really bad.
Yeah, jeez. Piccolo got it bad. Yeah. Piccolo, see, that's what bums. Piccolo bums me out so much. That was such a good character, and god damn it, they just like right at the end they just stopped giving a shit, because he kept having some stuff go on, which was cool. But for me personally, I was like, I was really hoping in Majin Buu arc, like even if he's not gonna murk the villain, I totally understand that. But like, god damn it, Toriyama, just give the fucking like pseudo villains turning good, just give them like one fucking room. All I wanted out of Piccolo was one power level that didn't require him sucking up a Namekian. I wanted one time where he just purely trains, gets better, and then just like lays out some fucking villain. And of course they'll do a form change and then kick his ass, but like that's all I wanted, because it always just kept bumming me out of like, damn it, like Piccolo's just at a threshold and then all he has to do is keep sucking up Namex to get better. I was like,
super.
Damn.
They finally gave him something in Super.
Yes.
He wasn't a scrub.
Yes.
But he had some really good team ups with Gohan.
And I was gonna say too, the one thing about one of the only good things I liked about GT, which I know is like the one that should normally not be named. I know. It's normally the one that should be named. But let's pull one good thing out of it. Piccolo had a pretty dope arc. Piccolo literally dies in hell, like fills up his whole arc. Gohan actually isn't a bitch for 5 minutes, like once he becomes an adult. Ugh. But anyway, okay, so let's rewind a little bit out of DBZ. Okay. But back then it was insane. Like, just another really small like tidbit of a thing was, I loved when all the toy companies, so like every time I'd go to Toys R Us, which back in the day used to be like the greatest, that was an event. Like if you were going to Toys R Us, you were like, oh my god. You were like,
dude, I remember like being excited to ride around in the little Batmobile.
Yeah,
back then. That was as a kid, that was one of the best things ever.
Yep, it was the time of my life back then. But it was funny because they were coming out with DBZ toys that didn't match the show yet. And I remember I was looking through, and it was like right after like Goku got Super Saiyan, and that was it. And I saw a character that was a Super Saiyan as like a DBZ figure, and I bought it because I was like, it's DBZ, I gotta get it. I don't know what it is yet, but he had earrings on. And I was like, what? And keep in mind, this is back in the day. So, like, keep in mind, back in the day, this is the 90s, so apologies for now.
No.
I was like, what pansy Super Saiyan dude is wearing earrings? I was like, what a goof. And then, like, sure enough, finally, I mean, literally a decade almost later, we hit Majin Buu Saga with Vegito, and I was like, oh my, I literally dig out of my toy fucking shell. I was like, holy shit. I was like, I've had this gold mine for years and, like, didn't know.
How did they even release that without it even being there?
Dude, it's nuts, man. It's so funny when you look at if you're ever bored, if you look at old school DBZ stuff, they're even selling they were even selling like Super Saiyan 3 Gokus before it was even, I mean, like before he even went Super Saiyan.
Oh my goodness.
It's fucking like, you want to talk about shit now of like spoiler culture of people going like, don't spoil shit. That couldn't have been a worse leak. That might be like the worst anime leak of all time that people don't even realize now because it's like back in the day.
For the record, that is my favorite transformation.
Oh yeah, hands down.
And
hands down.
Low key, literally, if I'm having a really rough run and I'm desperate, like I am grasping for straws, I'll just pull up a little YouTube
You pull up that background music?
Just put that on there real quick, and it helps me get through that last little 5 minutes.
Yep.
Because some days, you just need to pull from anywhere you can.
No, it's so true. But yeah, no, so, I mean, like, so, it's always a cop-out. DBZ, technically, I guess, I would say is, like, it was my first big jump in anime. But the one where I really went, like, whoa, because it's, I don't want to sound messed up saying this, but for me, DBZ still felt, like, on the threshold of, like, afternoon cartoon block.
Yeah.
Like, because it was very set up. I mean, DBZ, of course, had overarching stuff, but it was very, oh my god, in this episode, what's happening? And then even the next time on, and then, and then you were like, awesome, and then you could always catch up. It was like, I mean, even when I was a kid, I used to joke, and kids used to make fun of me for it, but I was like, it's the closest that teenage boys are going to get to a soap opera. Like, of just, like,
Actually,
tune in,
yes.
like, oh my god, plot twist of,
yes.
like, what's happening? So, we would always, like, tune in, but the first one that really blew my mind, and it stuck with me forever, was during Adult Swim, which was after Toonami. We got a couple of the more M-rated ones, the mature ones, and it was the first real anime that I checked out was Trigun, and it totally blew my mind of like just like hearing this like spaghetti western type music and having the characters, and like it was one of the first things, and I think maybe at the time, I mean I was still pretty young, but just like one thing that just totally fucking blew my mind was like, I guess the type of culture and the way the anime was like set up and stuff, and the way that they did stories was I would just see characters brooding, and that just blew my mind because that was not something I was ever used to, especially like, back then they were all cartoons. We didn't call them anime,
Yeah.
But back then it was all cartoons, so that's the one thing that totally blew my mind. I was like, characters are in deep thought and like nothing's happening, and like all the time it was always like, in any other cartoon, it was, the character has to have some epic monologue and there has to be a bunch of screaming and yelling. But, like, Trigun's a really good example of, like, you have a main protagonist and he's in his head a lot. And, I mean, of course, they make a lot of lighthearted jokes and a lot of shit's happening, but he's really brooding in his own brain a lot. And it was so crazy, like, and maybe it was just at watching it at a young age or something, but it just so fucking resonated with me of, like, more shit needs to be like this. And then the barn doors blew open, and then I got Bebop, and then my god, and then I got like Ghost in the Shell.
Oh my goodness.
And
so also
it was a bunch of stuff, and then same thing, and then the whole barn doors, and then I was getting Sailor Moon and everything. Sailor Moon was fucking hilarious too. Like I never thought about it. I think it was like last year, and I completely forgot about the whole when they redubbed it. When they did the English dub, I totally forgot they always had those like after school special fucking in-betweens. Like, I don't know why I repressed that out of my fucking head. But so anyway, so of course, so backing off of nostalgia in general. But yeah, but I think I'm so mixed with it now, because like I feel like if we would have talked about this like 10 years ago, this is what we would have wanted. Anime to be a mainstream thing. It's majorly in the culture. I feel like you can now, I mean, we're kind of lucky, like you can almost talk to anybody who has at least seen an episode of something. Like, you know what I mean? Like, even if they're not an anime person, even if they're like, oh, anime's stupid, I guarantee at least someone has watched something to be able to correlate that to. And I think that that's a really big deal. But it's that counterpoint of, like, there's so much of it now where, yeah, it's kind of that. And I think it's also, one thing that video that I shared that didn't really talk about it too much, and this just might be me, so by all means, if you don't agree with this, please feel free to disagree.
No.
But I think it's also kind of frustrating because I feel like it robs us of the experience that we used to have, which was like, first of all, anime was tougher to find, and nobody had like, the blueprint. Nobody had the perfect guide. It was constantly like, Wildon, what's that? Like, I have to tell you about this one dope show. Like, you have to check it out. And then you would be like, I didn't even hear what that is. But here's this one that I'm checking out. And then we would cross-reference and, like, do shit like that. But, like, now everybody kind of has, like, everything. Like, everybody has, like, everything. And there's not like a, it's so rare to bring up to somebody something totally new that they haven't even heard of. Because, like, even the popular stuff that's going on now, the problem is, like, people have just heard of it, but, because there's 15 other shows out, they just ignore it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, but here's the thing, though. I'm pretty sure, even though, yeah, it was, I remember, and this is also an old one, digging through Suncoast racks to find some sort of anything.
Yes.
Like, I remember...
That's how we used to look.
Yeah.
I mean, of course we had the internet, but that was the thing, too. You literally just couldn't look up back then, like, oh, top 10 of, like, amazing anime. Those didn't exist. I mean, we didn't have YouTube.
Yeah.
First of all, we didn't have YouTube. YouTube wasn't real. Like, we had nothing.
It was literally, if you found something, it was a gamble whether it was good or not.
Yes.
I think the best one, actually one of the earliest ones I remember was Tenchi Muyo the Movie 2.
Oh, okay.
The one where he goes back in time to, like, save his mom.
Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Like, that one was one of the first ones I saw, but when I went to Suncoast, I didn't know it was the same one that I saw. I was just kind of like, oh, this looks familiar. This looks like I saw that earlier. Okay, cool.
Yep.
Whereas now, you're right. There's dozens.
Oh, there's so much.
There's hundreds.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure there's still a couple that everyone can kind of guarantee are... The video went into the concept of there are no modern classics.
Yes.
I wouldn't say that there aren't modern classics. I guess the closest thing that you could come up with right now are from the last generation would be what? Bleach, Naruto, and
Oh,
One Piece.
yeah. Well, Shonen. I mean,
Yeah.
Shonen, for me, even personally, Shonen's just in a whole different...
Yeah,
it's in a league of its own.
There's always one relevant shonen. But at the same time, like, okay, a couple ones that we could probably knock off real quick. Current Assassination Classroom.
Yep. For me lately, it's been like one every year. I've gotten introduced to a new one. So like so this year, at least for me personally, the big one that's been blowing my mind is Demon Slayer. Now that is
that legit?
It is shonen. So already right there already really staples it. The whole crazy thing about it is, let me just pitch it to you this way, and this will suck you in. I don't even need to tell you about the story.
That's fine.
It is the artists and development team that have done the Fate Stay series, which is literally the highest budget you can ever put into animation ever, and literally the people that write shonen stories. You literally have the greatest two animation teams or like anime themed teams right now, literally collabing on this, and it shows. Like it shows in absolute strides. When I just even saw the art for Demon Slayer, my jaw hit the floor, and then when I saw it actually animated and what was happening, and at this moment they're only in episode 9, and I'm completely blown away.
Yes, I'm so early. Thank God.
Exactly, completely blown away.
By the time I discover things, they're already like 2 or 3 seasons in.
Yep. See, and that's the other thing too, because it's when you end up like trying to get into it, and I end up doing the same thing though, where like I'll hear about one. Demon Slayer is the first one in a long time where I'm like, I'll actually check it out right when it's coming out, because normally what I do is everybody has the hype, and then you go, fuck it, I'll wait till season 1's over and see if they don't fuck up the ending, and then I'll check it out, because then you have like a good example, which I know some people might fight me on, but you have a good example of like Tokyo Ghoul. A lot of people hyped it, a lot of people loved it, and then the ending, and for me personally, I thought the ending of season 1 was total bullshit, and then just totally fucks off, and then everyone's like, yeah, but it's still cool. It's like, no, you're saying that because you put in a lot of time and you don't want to admit it's bad, which is fine. That's okay. Listen, everybody has their opinion, but no, yeah.
payoff was worth it at the end.
Yes, absolutely.
But it took a couple years.
Yes, and also too, the manga's amazing.
Yeah.
My issue is the anime just fucking went wherever the hell they wanted, and that's where you hit that 50-50. But
when people, well, I mean, come on, what was the biggest victim of that? Full Metal Alchemist, the very first iteration of Full Metal Alchemist.
I'm so glad we're still on the same mental track.
Yeah.
So I was literally just gonna bring that up because I love that's the only team that did it right. When Aniplex did the original, I mean, of course, completely different from Brotherhood and completely different from the original manga, but how much dope shit did they do with a story that they didn't have an ending for? Like, the fact that they made, like, Sloth Ed and Al's mom, like, oh my god, like, they correlated, like, Wrath is literally, like, has, like, Ed's arm and leg, like, they correlated so much stuff, which I was like, that's cool, but very different from what the manga was actually trying to get as an ending.
When they finally got done with Brotherhood, though.
Yes. Oh my god. Payoff was absolutely worth it.
Goodness,
absolutely worth
so
it.
Good.
I was just personally on a personal note, I was just so frustrated it took so long for them to actually come out with like Blu-rays to own. That's always what but that's Aniplex in general. They always take like 86 years to actually put out something. I was here
thinking I was going to get closure because one of the first Blu-rays I actually bought was Conqueror of Shambhala.
Yes.
I was like,
love that movie.
It was cool, but it just
yeah,
it didn't feel like the real ending.
It didn't fully. I totally agree with you. What I feel like what the original series still needs. I mean, they'll never do it, but I still feel like what the original series needs is one more movie, where now it's even like post Conquest of Shambhala, and then they literally just like wrap up everything. Like everybody has an actual finalized story, and then can like legitimately wrap it up. Because I feel the same way. It's like cool, they're gonna go on more adventures, but I'm like, come on, man, like just fucking close the book. Like Brotherhood did a perfect job, and of course they had the manga to literally adapt that to, and that was kind of the thing too. They could kind of test out. That's where the manga kind of had a beautiful thing, and I think that's why Full Metal is still so good. Because they could kind of put out the anime, do an ending that they kind of thought and see how it would go. Fans reacted to it, and then all they had to do was just improve on it. And they went like, yep, fans reacting this way. Now we have to put closure on it this way. Push it in that direction.
I liked what they did. It was worth the investment. And if anything, and I think because there's so much out there now, time is your most valuable resource. If you're going to spend time watching anime, make sure it's a good one. And I think that's why everyone's so skittish about starting something new, because they're worried that the payoff's not going to be there.
Yeah. No, it's so true. I mean, the last one that I jumped into that I loved, I mean, like I was totally blown away, it was a Megalobox. I don't know if you've heard of that one at all. That
one's new.
So it came out right at the beginning of last year, and pretty much it's this whole just to give you a super brief story on it. Literally, it's all cybernetic, quote unquote, boxing. Where literally, so it's all boxing setup, so all like the old school classics, but the whole thing is they all have either like mechanisms that help them like punch like way harder and shit, which make it more like death matches. But of course, it's the classic boxing style animes, and it's inspired off all the original ones. The thing that totally blew my mind though about it was one of the band that does all the background music for Megalo is all the primary music composition team that did Bebop.
Oh my goodness.
And then the other thing that they did, which I was really surprised at, because the biggest thing for me that'll normally jump me in, at least nowadays, is the art style. If I can jam the art style, sometimes I can even get by with a story if the art looks good. Like that's usually what carries it for me, at least in the beginning. And a crazy awesome thing that they did was they scaled it to the normal, like everything. I mean, this is gonna sound bad to say it this way. They scaled to like the sword art and like all that cookie cutter type anime appearance, and then they ripped all the like gloss layers and then literally 2D draw everything like back in like the old DBZ days where they literally had a sketch pad with everything, and then they overlaid the 95 pages on top of that. And then they have all of that going seamlessly. So it's really weird. So you'll hit these moments where you have like that kind of newer anime style and like flow of stuff, but you're on all the shots and all the close-ups and every dialogue, you're getting that grit of like back when you were like watching it on TV. So it's really it hits you in such a weird feel, because like you hear the music and it throws you back in like an old school kind of like bebop vibe of like they're gonna go their own way and I'm just gonna sit back and let the episode take its course, like And then when you're watching it, you know, even if you're watching on your phone or your laptop or something, because like we're all watching on different shit now, but it gave me that nostalgia feeling of like I was back like eating like dinner at the fucking like living room table and watching fucking like Toonami go on. It felt so. I mean, it's on Toonami for fuck's sake, but it really puts you back in that like old school setup. So
I can get behind that.
all right. So that was one. That's. But like we were saying before, sorry, we got in a fucking huge roll there.
No.
But
we're good. No, because there's a lot we have to unpack here because we haven't even gotten into like Gundam or anything.
I know. There's
that's a whole topic.
I know.
In itself,
so I was
too.
gonna say. So we're going over a little bit over an hour here. So let's wrap it up for this one. But
Okay.
but Wildon, it was a fucking absolute honor and pleasure.
Oh, it was seriously. Thanks for the invite. This was a lot of fun.
Please.
Like, anytime I get to discuss like a little bit, I got to hit all the important notes today.
That's what I was saying, man. There were so many things I want to talk to you about. This I'm glad we covered a bunch. And same thing though. I mean, like, listen, you're always welcome to come back on. I'd love to be able to shoot the shit more. Heather, next time we'll have maybe a group dynamic. Have all of us shoot the shit. Maybe tell us some more horror stories about Philly. Maybe some good stories though too. We should.
Yeah.
Let's balance it out. I
Yeah,
don't want it to
it's a
be.
good
I don't want it to
balance,
be terribly biased. So.
Oh no. There's a lot of good that comes out of Philly, and a lot of like funny things that come out of Philly. Like it's an interesting city, that's for sure.
All right, so Wildon, thank you so much again. And on that note, everybody, good evening, good night, and good luck. Goodbye, everyone.